At SHOT Show 2023, OA Defense introduced the 2311, a single-action only duty-style pistol that takes P320 mags. Later that year, they teased about the Pro, a ported model of the gun with an extended magazine release, a better trigger, and a different slide to accommodate the ports. And then they released the Compact Pros in sort of a bizarre plot twist. That video's on the channel already, you can check it out. But now, the 5-inch version of the Pro is here. Welcome back. So this 5-inch version of the OA Defense 2311 Pro is, I guess, the third video on this style of pistol, and full disclosure, this is a version sent to me by the guys at OA Defense. They don't get a pass. We will go through some negatives at the end or anything like that. But I'd like you guys to know that no money changed hands, nothing like that. Since this is my third video on this style of pistol, and I've done like the OG 2311, this is the original one. I did the Compact Pro a while back with the shorter grip and the shorter slide. So this is kind of the flagship, the duty style gun that has the ports. So we're talking about it now. Now I am going to shortcut the process and just kind of hit the tops of the waves on features. You can watch those other videos if you want to go deep. That stuff's already out there. You mean you don't watch all my videos, like every single one? You could subscribe and change that, but you won't. Just break my heart, understand. So the 2311 Pro is basically a modern take on a single action only pistol that's actually built around a 9mm magazine. If you think about a 2011 magazine, and I happen to have one right here, this is actually styled after the length of a 45 ACP cartridge, which is why it is so long. It's why the 9mm versions of them have these ribs in them, all that kind of stuff. And it took a while for us to figure out how to make these things feed 9mm cartridges. The problem with those magazines is that it creates an incredibly large grip because it's built around a double stack 45 effectively. That later became 38 Super, then 38 Super Comp, and then, you know, they figured out how to make 9mm work out of the things. But why go through all that when you can just build a grip around a 9mm magazine, which is what Staccato is doing with their new C2024 guns, the CS, and, you know, Wilson Combat is doing with the EDC X9. There's a reason they didn't pick the 2011 mags, and the guys at OA Defense picked the P320 mag, a magazine built around the 9mm cartridge. This is very interesting because it kind of takes sort of all of the modern stuff and kind of puts them all together on one pistol. And what do I mean by that? This is a modular grip gun, meaning that like a 2011, there is a polymer grip that bolts onto a metal frame. This frame material happens to be aluminum, so it is lightweight. It weighs about 29 ounces, which would be about the same as a heavy polymer framed gun. There are thumb ledges on the grip that kind of go right at the top of the trigger guard. It's a very welcome kind of reference point for you to get your thumb onto the pistol. And the grip itself, the polymer bits, they do a great job with the texture because the most aggressive part is up here where your gun is being, you know, most likely to turn, where traction matters the most. So they kind of put it up there. And that's welcome when you're shooting the pistol trying to control it. The front strap and back strap don't have a ton in the way of checkering, but what's interesting is it's a completely modular grip because this aluminum magwell at the bottom of the grip, you can actually swap out to a compact magwell, and it actually shortens the grip so that it is shorter and takes 15 round mags, whereas what you see right here is based around a full-length flush 17 round magazine. And it's cool that kind of at the end user level, you can kind of change the grip size and get the gun to kind of fit what you want for it at the time. If you were to do that, you would have a 15 round grip on a 5-inch pistol, which is kind of crazy, but you know, you can do it. As discussed, the mag catch is different. It has the Springer Precision paddle installed at the factory, makes it much easier to get on the mag release. Here is the OEM one. It's just a regular P320 mag release. You can still get on it because the grip is, you know, built around a 9mm magazine, so it's not terrible to reach, but it is a bit nicer with the paddle. The slides, and you can kind of see them side by side right there, have different sort of slide cuts and a little bit different sort of geometries to accommodate the two large ports, which are at about the 230 and the 1030 on the barrel. And you can kind of see that there. It's kind of interesting because they not only put these like slits into the barrel, but there is kind of the relief as well that's, you know, a little bit of fluting right there at the end. The controls are fully ambi, an ambi safety with an ambi slide stop, and ambi convertible in the fact that the mag catch will spin around to the other side, which is the right way to do mag catches. If it's a true ambi, you can bump into a counter when you're washing your hands and pop magazines free. Asking me how I know. The gun is sold in a super deluxe sort of case and comes with 5 magazines. Now, one departure that they did take from the old guns is now they are shipping with the Magpul AMAGs, and this is a new Magpul magazine. They were actually, manufacturing the old magazines themselves, and they were black. Now they have these AMAGs, and they have these extended ones. I don't know what they're stating the capacity as being. It's like 21 or 22 rounds. I just stuffed them till they were full. I didn't bother counting. But it comes with 2 flavors. It has 2 of the 17 rounders and 3 of the extended versions of the magazine. The barrel design is not a linked 1911 style. It is more of a CZ style, but it doesn't have the locking lugs on top of the barrel. You can actually see due to the slide cut. So it does kind of lock up on the hood of the barrel with the slide, similar to other Browning action guns. The actual feel in hand is pretty good. It doesn't feel like a traditional polymer pistol because you are putting a lot of squeeze on this aluminum mag well. Your thumb is resting on the manual safety, and it is, because that's how you're supposed to shoot single action guns, right? So it does kind of feel like a kind of elevated experience. It doesn't feel like a polymer pistol in many respects. While it is lightweight and made out of alloy, it still has a very hefty sort of feel in hand. And the trigger, as discussed, I won't do trigger weights on YouTube because they're really dumb about it, but it is right on the sear, just loading it up, just taking a little bit out of the compression there, and then the hammer drops. And the reset is very short. It is a very shootable trigger, and it was in the ballpark of what, in my opinion, a single action only trigger should be weighted from the factory. Let's talk about the sights real quick, because this is one place where they kind of go extra on the OA defense guns. They actually come with 3 plates to mount optics, but not only 3 plates, but also 2 additional front sights that are in fact night sights. So it really is set up around sort of the duty carry style gun, where it really does want the backup irons to sort of be there. You can see it's got front irons on this. This is a Cyelee Cat Pro. Because it has front irons, I couldn't get the cantilever optics on there, so this was the only optic I had in the fleet that I could spare to put on this gun, and it does a good job co-witnessing. It's a very minimalist sight picture, and it's down in the bottom part of the window just like you'd want it to be. But it's got a different front sight for an RMR sight, and it has a different front sight for a Delta Point Pro sight as well. So that's the kind of the top of the wave sort of view about the 2311. Let's talk about how they compare one to another. The OG 2311 that came out last year, this is one of the early ones, and then this recent manufacture. First and foremost, just the machining and manufacturing of the guns has improved. This gun is notably looser than the newer Pro model. Granted, this model of the gun does have fewer rounds on it than this model, even still from the factory. This is more in line with what a production gun would be, whereas this is more in line with something like a production 2011 would be. I asked them, and that's not a feature that is related to the Pro model. That's just that, new gun companies spin up their guns, they start working on them, they realize that they can, improve the guns one way or another, and, generally the guns do get better with time, and that's the case with this gun as well. That said, it's not something that's super observable through shooting it, but just the kind of the fit, finish, and feel of the gun is improved over kind of where it used to be. It just feels more precise. It feels like it commands the price tag a bit better. The ports on the gun do knock down the velocity of the ammunition. I chronoed Winchester white box ammo out of it. It was doing about 1,200 foot per second out of the OG gun, and it was doing about 1,170 foot per second out of the Pro model. So that's roughly a 2.5 to 3% drop in energy leaving the gun. So that's going to result to some degree of less energy coming through on the slide. And just so we're clear on how kind of these little recoil mitigating stuff works, so we've got ports on this. There's 2 styles. There's ports and compensators. What ports do is they bleed gas before it exits the end of the muzzle so that there's less energy coming out of the muzzle, which means there's less energy on the slide as it's moving, and that will generally relate to lower muzzle climb. Compensators work the opposite way, where they redirect all the ejecta up so that it kind of forces the muzzle to stay down, keeping the muzzle down. And you can see with the side-by-side slow motion of the gun shooting that the Pro model of the gun is a little bit more peaceful to shoot. It recovers a good bit quicker. There's not as much oscillating as the gun kind of moves forward and backward, doing what it does shooting the gun. Now, the value of that is debatable. I know some of you guys are going to jump in the comments and be like, yeah, but you can shoot stuff faster. But I mean, realize what we're talking about. If you're doing aimed shooting, you're talking about not tenths, but maybe hundredths of a second longer in recovery for sight pictures. Where it will manifest an advantage is, pulling the trigger as fast as you can. If the muzzle's moving around less, it's gonna hold a tighter group a little bit. I was happy to see that printing this with my Buffalo Creek 115 ammunition. They are a channel sponsor and I appreciate their support. If you wanna find out more about it, maybe jump in the comments. But the Buffalo Creek is very soft shooting stuff. Shot well out of this gun, and you can see that this group shot about, I don't know, 25, 26 yards offhand, is a pretty good group and about capable of what I could do with most lightweight single action guns. And one thing that I sort of teased at earlier, one thing that I really like about the 2311 is I generally don't like aluminum framed guns. I like, if you're gonna make a metal framed gun, you might as well go with steel and enjoy the benefits of kind of that softer shooting, better weight distribution. You got more weight below the center of the bore line, so the gun just behaves a little bit nicer. This gun actually shoots very well for an aluminum framed gun, and it's made more so by the fact that the Pro model has these ports in it. But let's talk about some of the negatives with the pistol, and this is kind of platform specific, not necessarily this gun specific. First and foremost is the grip texture. They do a good job on the side panels. I could deal with more texture on the back strap and front strap of the gun. I mean, there's a reason to have this relief right here, and I do appreciate it. It's to reposition the gun as you're doing manipulations, and that's all to the good, but I would appreciate a little bit more on the back strap, if nothing else. And probably the single biggest complaint about this gun is the lack of holster support available. And that's not to say that there is no holsters available, because they offer 3 different types of holsters on their website. But this being a 5-inch gun, if you wanted to carry inside the waistband in a sidecar style holster, none of the holster makers that you're probably thinking of, like T-Rex or Tier 1 or anything like that, offer holsters for this gun. The holster that I found to work the best for me is if you have a weapon mounted light on the gun, which most people with a 5-inch gun are probably going to use a weapon mounted light, then things like the Filster floodlight worked well for this as well. So as long as you have a light on the gun, there are good holster options available, but that's kind of something to be aware of. If you don't like carrying with a light, then your options are going to be sort of more limited. The final deal, and this has actually gotten better as the pistol's kind of broken in or whatever, is the slide release on the left-hand side of the pistol if you wanted to use your trigger finger. When I first got the pistol in my possession, I couldn't get it to drop. Now I can, but I have to push down on it really hard, and that's continued to improve with use on the pistol, but that's just something to be aware of. It does get better, but out of the box, it was super stiff on the offside. Very easy on the left-hand side of the gun, but there you go. It is a very good serious use pistol, and they've just gotten better. Like, I like this Pro model more than I like my old OG model of the gun. It just, the improved machining and all that kind of stuff, it's a nice gun. If you want to check out my video on the Compact Pro, you can watch that video here.